Hi everybody. Yeah, I know I look a bit different, but it's for a very good reason. The Kilted Goth, some of you know him, and if you don't know him, then please go and check him out. That's the Kilted Goth. Put a link here. Has set a challenge, and he's called it the Naked Goth Tag. So in good spirits, I've decided to join in. Hence the reason I've got a woolly hat on, and I'll explain what the challenge is first, and then I'll go on to kind of discuss what I think is appropriate for it. So the idea is to look inwards and find out what you actually makes you a goth. What makes you tick without all the goth trappings? Are you less of a goth without them? So here's the tag. So the idea is to remove everything goth about you. So wear normal clothes, and so nothing black, no gothic makeup, no makeup in fact, and no goth hair. Wear a hat if you have to. So I've got a hat on to cover my ear piercings because they're a bit of a pain to take out, so I thought, well, I'll just put a hat on. And obviously my hair might be a bit spiky and stuff, so I don't want it to be misconstrued in any way whatsoever. So the idea is no makeup, no goth hair, no goth trinket, so no rings, no necklaces, no nothing. No goth music, so there's no music in this video either. No goth anything, so it's the idea is to strip everything gothic about yourself. Obviously to look inwards and to find out what makes you goth. Now, I'm somebody who has had to lead a kind of double life. I worked in the health service for many years, and in the health service I had to remove all my piercings. Oh, I've just realised I've got my nose stood in, hang on. Take that out, there you go. So yeah, I worked in the health service for a few years, and when you work in the health service there are certain rules that you have to kind of live by, and that includes like wearing a uniform and having to put your hair up and not wearing piercings and necklaces and rings and things, because when you're dealing with the general public and when you're dealing with members of the public who are not well, you might be asked to help them to move about. You don't want to be in a situation where somebody can grab hold of a necklace and strangle you, or grab hold of an earring, because it does happen. Nurses, unfortunately, one of the nurses and nurse assistants are one of the groups that unfortunately get assaulted quite a lot. So you have to kind of minimise your attraction to that kind of thing. So you just wear a uniform. The uniform I wore was a dress. These days a lot of nurses wear trousers, but these were dresses. Had to wear sensible shoes, tights, and, you know, no jewellery, no nothing, no makeup, no nothing. Well, I could wear makeup, but obviously at that time I had a lot of gothic makeup. So it wouldn't have been appropriate for me to do the whole goth thing and work in the hospital. So it kind of became a bit of a habit for me. I kind of fell out of even dressing gothic after a while, mainly because I moved to an area in Manchester where if you looked different you would have been singled out. So I tried to kind of fit in a little bit. So I used to just wear t-shirts, joggers, you know. I didn't have a lot of money at that time. This was after I lost my job. And, you know, I used to wear trainers, fairly cheap clothing that was serviceable for everything. So I got out of the habit of wearing gothy type stuff, and I didn't have the money to go out and buy the t-shirts and the everything. So I was in a bit of a financial hole, if you like. So again, I was kind of reliant on what I could pick up here and there. If I went out somewhere though, I still liked to make an effort. So I still had the odd bit of velvet in the wardrobe that I could kind of, you know, put on and, you know, do some nice makeup and so on. Never made me any less of a goth, I don't think, because I'd had this double life. Fast forward a few years, I started working in education. With that, again, I had to downplay a lot of what I was about. So again, I didn't, have my hair dyed wacky colours, apart from once when it was green, but hey ho. And that was because it didn't wash out. It kind of stained my hair quite a bit. Oh well, never mind. But yeah, I toned it down again for every day, because I just thought about the practicalities of being in a job where, you have to kind of appear neutral, because although interesting looking people are good, and it's good to have a wide range of people working in an educational environment, there's still a sort of professionalism that is expected. So obviously I didn't think it was difficult to do. I know that some people do find it difficult, and some people are very anti anything that isn't accepting them as how they want to dress. Personally, I think if you do that, you are restricting yourself. I've never been a big fan of labels. Although I call myself a goth, I've never been a massive fan of labels, because I think sometimes when you give something a label, you're restricting its potential to be anything else. And so obviously if we restrict ourselves, it's down mainly to other people's perceptions and what people perceive as goth or whatever, for whatever subculture you belong to or whatever you're interested in. So by being goth, more on the inside, and not reflecting that in my outward appearance so much, means that, I don't get any of the hassle that a lot of other people get for looking different and so on. Now, yes, there's a lot to be said for looking different, and there is room for that in our lives. And I'm certainly a little bit alternative-y most of the time. I certainly probably don't dress appropriately, or what is considered appropriate for a 46-year-old woman, but that is only society's idea. So yeah, so what makes me a goth without all the trappings? Now, Kilted Goth was very specific about this, because he said not to mention books or anything like that, so we're off all goth topics. I definitely think it's something inside. It's something to do with being innately drawn to the darker aspects of life. So whether that's, again, there are different levels of it, of goth, aren't there? You've got someone who might look the part, but don't really have much going on inside their heads, or that they, are only interested in the look. They're not interested in any other part of the subculture. And there are those of us that have been around a few years who have always been drawn to certain aspects of the darkness, if you like. So for me, it was things like horror movies. I shouldn't be mentioning any of this, but horror movies. I've always been a voracious reader from a very early age. So consequently, I've read a lot of the books that are considered, must reads. Again, I used to read horror novels a lot. I was always drawn to spiritual aspects, so I used to read a lot of ghost stories or real life kind of weird phenomena. So what's nowadays termed Forteana, I didn't know it was called Forteana in those days, and that's to do with Charles Fort and his collecting together of weird and strange stories. So yeah, and again, always an interest in the macabre, interested in death, interested in what looks macabre. So again, skulls. For years I just had a plaster cast skull that I had that just sat on the fireplace, and that was the only thing that I had that was out that could have been anything that it was looked, apart from obviously some books on the bookcase, that could have been looked at as being goth. And I did get asked occasionally, why have you got a skull on your fireplace? It's because I want to. And I don't think it made any less of a, it just made it was there as an impact. So I think part of the thing with being goth is we are drawn to these darker aspects of life. We're drawn to mysterious, the spiritual, the, death, dying, whatever. There's a sort of an embracing of the darker aspects of life. And there's a lot of people out there who are very much love and light, and that they have a positive attitude towards everything, and it's all fabulous and wonderful, and that's great, and I really appreciate that, and I really approve of it. However, there is always a dark side to things. There's always a downside to everything, and I wouldn't say that's necessarily because I'm a depressive person, because I do live with my depression. That's just part of it. That's not the thing that I use to define as being goth. I have depression in my family. It's probably hereditary. So, it's probably a genetic thing. So I've got a genetic predisposition towards depression. So that's not something I ever that is not something that I kind of put alongside my goth side. Now, back in the day, back in the 80s, in the early 80s, I wore what my parents bought me, so yes, I did have, clothing that's probably brilliant, but, you wear what you wear. Not everyone had the freedom that some children had at school. Some of the kids at school were allowed to wear, skin-tight mini skirts or skin-tight ankle-length skirts and, be a bit more gothy and spike the hair up and everything. But, I was always respectful of my parents' wishes, so I didn't kind of go overboard with it. I was interested in Gothic clothing, but again, it was a matter of being able to find it, being able to buy it. I remember there was one shop that I used to go past, and the guy was a tailor of a fashion, and he used to make sort of gothy and punk clothing, and he used to send it all over the country. He's no longer with us, I don't think. And I always used to drive, if I was ever going into town on the bus or in my parents' car, I'd drive past it and I'd see all this clothing hanging up, all this stuff dripping with lace and uneven hemlines, and I'd just think, oh, that's so fabulous. But again, I could never afford it. I never had the money to do it. And again, as I was going through life, when, as you say, other things take priority. So I don't think it makes you any less of a goth, because it's goth on the inside. It's not goth necessarily on the outside. So this is a very difficult thing to do, really. So why do I like black? Why am I drawn to it? I'm drawn to it because, number one, it's slimming. Okay, so there's a practical reason for wearing black. It is very slimming. So if you wear black, you look smaller than if you wear white. That is a common fashion thing. Why do I like the macabre? I've always liked a sense of mystery. I've always liked a sense of, the only way I can describe it really is darkness. So things like, I grew up watching Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes movies, right? And horror movies that used to be on BBC Two, which is a British TV channel, they used to be on in the early evenings sometimes. So they used to put a lot of black and white movies on. So you'd occasionally get things like Frankenstein on, or, you get the odd ones on now and again. But yes, certainly there was Basil Rathbone, Sherlock Holmes was a big influence for me. So, you look at it today and you've got Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch, and his big long black coat and everything. How goth is that, the guy's even got a skull painting on his wall. Look at the next time you see Sherlock, look at his apartment and he's got a skull painting on the wall. And again, his where he lives is quite sort of gothic as well, in a way. Once upon a time, before the post-punk thing, if somebody was dressed all in black, they wouldn't have been called a goth. They'd have just dressed all in black, It was a fairly way out thing to do. During the sort of 1950s, 1960s, they probably would have been called bohemians, beatniks as well.